Hey, welcome back to our series on creating a virtual console, an 8-bit console, using lots of AI inside the console and outside the console. At the end of the last episode, we added a little tool to import some screenshots and kind of create loading screens in assembly. But our sort of developer experience is getting really busy now, and before we start implementing the sprite system and tile map system, I figured it would make sense to just step back a little and essentially organize the system into a bit more of a development environment slash, shall we grandly say, an IDE. So I've created some specs offline because it's very boring watching me type specs, I'm sure. And here's the meat of it. Essentially, we want to convert what we've got to an IDE. So as per usual, we ask it to read the guidelines. I'm asking it to read the source, and then there's two changes I want to make in this first pass. The first thing is to let us start having a sort of sense of multiple files. So at the moment, we've just got one. We've got one source file, which is fine for Pong. It's fine for these little things I've been writing, but also even for Pong. I've got things like draw pixel subroutines, and there's all sorts of little subroutines which would be nice to split out into different files. So we want to lay the groundwork for that. So introduce Project Explorer on the left, pretty standard. We are going to kind of enforce a project structure on it, and that I've outlined here. And I suspect this will wriggle around a bit, but for now, what I'm going with is source, src, which will contain ASM files. And I'm also saying there must always be a main.asm file, and that's the kind of entry point to the assembly process. We're going to have a sprites file that contains what I've grandly called .gbin files. We're going to create a little sprite editor in the system. We'll let people import sprites, but these things are basically tiny. We use our palette data, and I want to create a little editor in here so you can quickly edit sprites. We'll store the sprites in our raw format, and we'll store them in kind of like 32k blocks. So I have defined the sprite system. In fact, I've done some more work on defining it, which we'll go through in a future episode. But essentially, they are in bank switched memory. So we're going to write a little editor for a bank of sprite memory. Similarly for tiles, so tiles are used by the sort of tile map leveling system, They're the same format as sprites, but just for organisational purposes, I'm putting those in a tiles folder. Again, .gbin files, which use 32k blocks, that can be bank switched. And then maps the layout of our levels if we're using tile maps. So again, a 32k block, and we'll implement a basic level designer. And finally, cartridge.json. We need a way to bring all this together into a cartridge we can, plug into our system. It says doing a giant plug motion. But I seem to remember back in the day having to give some real force to some cartridges on some systems. Anyway, cartridge.json, and that'll just be a file that lets us lay out how the cartridge, how these banks get fitted together inside the cartridge, so we can do the actual bank switching inside our program when we need to point the sprite hardware at the sprite bank, so on and so forth. Yes, excuse me, I need to yawn. Oh, pardon me. Okay, it's 8:30 in the UK when I'm recording this on a Saturday morning. It's pretty rainy outside, and that's making me feel sleepy. Also, I have central heating for the first time. I'm renovating this house I live in, and I've got central heating, so it's the warmth is making me sleepy too. Anyway, moving on. I've not done anything like this for sort of tree views, but I did a little bit of research and came across React Arborist. Looks a good component for our tree view, very popular. It should do what we need. So I'm saying, and then some additional guidance. We want to be able to right-click folders and add new files. And we want to be able to delete files, and then to click a file and open it for editing. To double click a file. Open files should be shown in tabs at the top of the editor. Always a way, isn't it? You write the spec and then you come back and read it to somebody, just like a review. you know, in a professional environment, and you find the little things you've missed. So we want to be able to, you know, right-click nodes and delete things, add things, and double-click and open files for editing. The file will be able to edit to begin with main.asm. I'm just going to put in here. So the editor should depend on the file type. But for now, we will only have an editor for .asm files. That is the Monaco-based editor we have now. This editor should continue to support the setting of breakpoints. Okay, so it should be as it is. We want, when it starts up, we want people to select folder we're using with, so I want to, I'm trying to avoid, although I've used Bedrock, I'm trying to avoid kind of lots of server infrastructure. Hopefully people can kind of install and use themselves. The reason for that, bizarrely, and irritatingly, is the UK's Online Safety Act, which means if I was to host this and let users sort of save their content and submit their content, I have to do a whole bunch of stuff to do with safety. It's incredibly onerous, and you know, this is just my personal perspective, is a real break on startups in the UK in any kind of user content space. Well, I guess, you know, in general, I mean, big tech absolutely loved this initiative, despite their sort of protestations. They loved it. They shaped it to their own advantage, as they always do. They pulled the ladder up behind them, as they always do. You know, they've established their footprint in social media and all these other sort of, you know, spaces that are about user content, and you know, then made it very, very difficult for anybody who isn't of a certain size with a significant amount of funding to actually have even a simple product in the same space. I think it's disgraceful. They talk about democratizing things, these big corporations, feudal overlords. Anyway, my politics aside, I find this stuff deeply... I guess I get a bit, you know, annoyed by this stuff. It has it'll have very little impact on actual safety of children, etc. This stuff never does. Kids find a way around it. People are using VPNs already. You know, it has no real impact, but most of the impact it has are negative and constraining, and in the interests of people who have not got even remotely the same agenda as this initiative. You know, big tech has no interest in safety. None. Zero. You know, you can see it from the way they act and the way they, you know, the minimal approach they take to so many things, the way they, you know, dodge being a publisher. I can't remember the name of it, the law in the UK that gives them rights not to be a publisher and all the sort of constraints that come with it, yet they find a way to basically act like, yeah, it's disgusting. Anyway, yeah, and I guess it bothers me so because I started in IT in the 80s. 82 was my first computer, and back then, you know, computers were this sort of almost utopian dream in the UK, at least in the 8-bits. Everybody could create stuff, make stuff. It was seen as liberating. Ultimately, I mean, there was a fiction around the start, but certainly, you know, I was inspired by optimistic science fiction and, you know, the potential for this stuff to just be awesome. And you know, it's in many ways it's not what it's become. Anyway, we'll move on from my personal politics and my personal concerns, and we'll move on back onto our system. So that's why I'm using the file system, basically. Also, I don't particularly want to pay for hosting is another thing, although, you know, storing files in S3 also would cost peanuts, and I really don't mind. I've done that before this stuff kicked in. It just, you know, it's trivial hosting costs, really. For a reasonably architectured system, with you know, files that can be stored in cheap storage, it's peanuts. So that wouldn't have stopped me. I'd have done that quite happily. You know, it would have been fine. That was. I mean, I did this post that stuff, so never was an option. But I certainly would have done beforehand. I would have just thought of this as just hosting it online somewhere. Anyway, so I'm going to use a file system. we'll let people create a project and select a new project. We'll initialize it with the right files, create the base files. The current project should be stored in local storage so that it's remembered between the current project location, between sessions, between browser sessions. It's not available on startup. The user should be given a choice of picking a folder and or creating a new project. Okay, so we'll let it start up and let them pick things. The second thing I want to add is just a button to let essentially a run button. I call it a debug edit mode toggle. This is getting quite busy. We're already running out of space. I mean, it doesn't help when I'm zoomed in. If I zoom out, I've got a lot more room. I'm zoomed in for the recording basically. But still, it's getting quite busy. And when you're writing code, working on graphics, you don't really want this debug thing over here. It's a bit of a pain really. So we're going to have a run mode. It's also a bit confusing when you run and reset things. It's just got a bit confusing. So we're going to have a run mode that assembles and runs a program. And makes, and then we can stop it and go back to the editor mode. So just like in an IDE, you want to be able to run it and start it and off we go. Then implementation, finally, I want to put it in two phases. Phase 1, implement the Project Explorer, but just account for run button, and phase 2, implement the run mode. It's quite a broad ask in many ways, and I may regret not being more specific on the sort of look and feel and stuff, but it's got stuff to work from, and so far it's generally built on the things we've already got in place. So I am going to, I had to reinstall Core this morning for some reason. It went missing. The Mac did a couple of updates. I guess it was that. Let me just commit my spec, because I wrote it this morning over breakfast. Okay, let's just pop that up. Okay, and then let's go to WebStorm. Let's just, I need to make this bigger for people, I guess, before I forget. WebStorm settings, appearance, I'll make it 150. Okay, people can see it now. Okay, so I'm going to copy the path as I always do. Go into Claude, which I've got reinstalled here. Great. You can see I was working on the tile map system and bits and pieces of spec. So I've not actually, it's a couple of weeks since I last worked on this. I've been really busy with work. Yes, it's a couple of weeks since I actually worked on this. And I suspect some of my rustiness will show, but we'll get going. I'll kick it off and let it go. As per usual, I suspect this might take it a little while, so I will probably, do a cut here, and we'll come back when it's finished. Nobody really needs to watch Claude trundling away at this point. We've seen it enough in this series. Okay, Claude thinks it's done. I've not dared look at what has actually happened. So let's take a look. I don't think it's running. No, the console isn't running, so we would not see anything in the browser yet. Let's bravely fire it up. Okay, so let's go into source, need to go to devkit, and we need to start the devkit. Okay, I should be able to go to a browser. Ooh, okay, so we've got a dialog because I don't have a folder selected. Okay, great. Well, that's great. Okay, let's create a new folder. So that doesn't look right to me already because it's creating a new project, but I wanted to create it in a specific location. But let's go with its recommendation of my awesome project to see what happens. Where's it going to put this? Ah, okay, fine. Okay. Yeah, we'll edit files. Okay. So we've got our slightly busy file system still because we haven't changed project. Okay. Yeah, we've got a slightly busy system here because we've not done phase 2 yet. Not quite sure why it's got a scroll bar down there with such a small system. Let's open the source folder. Okay, so nothing's working there. It doesn't have a main.asm created. It does a cartridge.json created. Okay, fine. Got a tab creating. Okay, I mean it's done an okay job. We don't have a main.asm. Let's go to let's go to terminal actually. Let's go to code/virtual console. No, it's not, is it? My awesome project. My awesome project. With Father Ted, I'm now thinking of My Lovely Horse, the song we're singing. Oh dear. Da, da, da. I've got it in my head now. Oh no. Okay, so it's got a main.asm in there, but we're not seeing it in the in the tree. Okay, so let's pop open web store. Let's have a look at what it's done, and then we'll see if we'll ask it to fix its issue. But it's a pretty credible job from the first part. Okay, so it's going to be my client. It's changed stuff. Source. Let's see what it's done. I didn't give it any guidance about how to structure this, so but the project is pretty simple. So new file log, project dialog. Okay. Yeah, fine. So it's created components. Okay, we might pull those around a little bit into our application folder. So I'm not sure all those are components, but are we using our dialog component? Yeah, we're using our dialog component that was created earlier, so that's good. And I guess it's extended it's done something about enter container. What's it changed? Doesn't seem to change anything. Why is that light blue? It has changed some stuff. Okay, so it's put the tabs in. Okay. Makes it a bit wider so we can see a bit more. Okay, so it's put some tabs in, look, to support the, yeah, fine. So, okay, so it's just put some safety code in around the editor for ASM files. So you've added the code for ASM files. Cool. Let's put the tabs in for the top, and I assume the editor is now within a tab block. ASM file div. I'm just going to close this down. So now I know it's done. It's going to be a bit easier to just look at it in here. So I assume we've got is the tab strip in here. Code. Okay, fine. It's all the existing code. Okay, scroll down. I slowed down my mouse wheel this morning because it was driving me mad, and now it's not running fast enough. Okay, no worries. Okay. Oh, here's the changes. Okay, tabs. Okay, yes, let's use our tab strip component we've got ready to do the tabs on the top. Okay, great. Let's make some change to it as closed tabs because we didn't have that capability before. Okay, that makes sense. Project Explorer. I've never used this component before, so okay, we'll come back to that. Looks like it's not quite following the linter rules. Okay, there's no type definitions. Okay. Yeah, so I've not used this component before, so I know nothing about React Arborist other than it looked sensible and sane. But it was like it's done vaguely sensible things. Okay, project dialog, context code, tree. Ah, here it is, tree. Hang on a bit there, slow moment there. Okay, so it's put the tree in. Okay, so it's put the height to. That's why it's big. It's put the height to fixed 800. So we don't want that. We want it to be responsive. So we'll get to fix that. So we ask it to fix two things. I mean, it looks vaguely sane. You know, I will do what I always do, which is have a bit of a better review offline. But as a first pass, it looks pretty sensible. There's some stuff I want to pull around. I can see already. I'm probably going to see if I can simplify some of this code down. You know, in terms of pulling it apart, because it just looks like it's got to be quite a big class. Same for edge container. This has got a bit big now, so you know, we've put more features in. So unsurprisingly, it's got that bit bigger, and we just probably need to think a bit about the code organisation. But I'll do those things offline because they're not very interesting to watch. So we ask it to fix two things. So let's go back to Claude. We have two things to fix. So that all works. However, two things to fix. No, I keep pressing the wrong thing. Stop that. Let me just do this in code. That all works. However, we have two things to fix. One, a fixed height of 800 px. We want it to fit within the parent. Basically be responsive vertically. Okay, and two, we can't open the source folder. Just double check. I can't double click it now. I can't double click it. I can't open it. Okay, we can't open the source folder in the tree, and so I can't see main.asm, but I can see on the file system that main.asm has been created. Okay, so let's ask Claude to fix those two things. Okay, so it's using a resize observer. Probably check and make sure that the component doesn't have a sort of responsive height type approach. I'm guessing it doesn't, but we will check. As I say, I've not used it, so I'll probably go and check some of those things. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I can now see main.asm. Okay, so that's fixed, okay, and I assume if we don't get a scroll bar when we scroll it up, okay, so, okay, okay, still two problems. We can't close folders. Clicking around, I shrink the browser vertically, I don't get a scroll on the tree view. I think the tree view probably just needs, it probably needs a different approach. It probably needs its, well, let's think about it. I will probably have to read the docs to figure out how to fix it actually, because I need to understand its own sizing logic. So maybe if Claude fixes it with this, great. If not, I want to leave that one for a moment, go and read the docs on the Arborist component and figure out how its sort of sizing works so I understand what the HTML structure should be around it, so that we can you know, get it to handle the resize correctly, because we do need scroll bars, but we don't want it taking up more space than is available. I guess what we actually want is the tree view to just take it the size that's required of it, and then we could handle the scrolling around it. But I don't know enough about Arborist. So I'll find out, but I'll probably do that off video because it's just going to be tedious watching me read the documentation for Arborist and figure that out. Okay, let's see what happens now. Okay, cool, that's great. We can open and close folders. It's better. If I shrink this up, does a scroll bar appear? Yes, okay, so great. I'll go and look at how that's worked. Looks pretty decent. Can I open the SM file? I can open the SM file. Okay. It's like a new button. Not sure about where that came from. Okay, that might be to do with what it's thinking it's doing for phase 2, so I'm going to leave it. Phase 2 is to add that edit mode. Oh, save file. Okay, so it's a save button. It's not dirty. Okay. Okay, so save file. Okay, cool. I didn't ask it to do that. I hadn't actually thought about saving the files back to the file system in terms of a UI interaction. So that's great. We could save a file. Very handy. Let's see if it actually works. I'll put another jump. Obviously this wouldn't do anything in reality, but let's save that. Let's go to the file system. Code source /main.asm. Yes, you can open that file. Okay, yeah, so it does save to the file system. Great. It's one step ahead of me. So I am going to do, just going to commit this stuff. Okay. Oh, no, get another window. I always end up with 10 million terminals open. If anybody else is like me, you end up with 10 million terminal tabs open. Let's commit that as a next checkpoint. Tree view. Okay, let's push that. Okay, so that done, let's let it move on to phase 2. Let's go back to Claude. Okay. All now works. Interesting, it's noted here. So I didn't actually read this, I was too busy pushing on. Okay, so it's hand and double click, it's doing the toggle, okay. Okay. Okay, great. So the tree component has built-in virtual scrolling, but we've had to sort of yeah, I'm not sure this makes perfect sense. I definitely feel I need to go and read the Arborist docs on the sizing. I keep saying it has built-in virtual scrolling that handles scrolling when context exceeds variable height, but at the same time it's saying it's had to enable overflow on the tree container. Those two things seem a little bit orthogonal, so I'll go and look at that, if nothing else to make sure I understand what it's done, because I don't at the moment. Yeah, and I'll go and look at the tree component more completely. In any case, we've got the basics there. Let's see if we can let it do phase 2. I will probably snip this out because it will probably take it a few minutes. Okay, so we've got phase 2 ready. I've left it running, so it's recompiled in the background. I can see now that it's not saved the current project to local storage by the looks of it. So if I just open up the developer tools, where's the developer tools gone? Where have the developer tools gone? Ah, of course they've moved them. Because why not? Okay, let's go to application. Oh, it's there. It's just not loaded it. But it's not saved the path. Okay, so that's not quite right. Okay, fine. Another thing we need to ask it to fix. But let's have a quick look at what's going on. So we'll browse for project folder. My awesome project. My awesome project. It loads. That's good. Oh, okay. Let's pull the AI assistant off to the side. Let's open a main. Great, okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm not sure I like the giant button, but okay, that's, you know, good start. We have no editable file for the, yeah, okay, so it doesn't break when we try and open a JSON file. I'm not going to, okay, that does vaguely work, but let's cancel it, okay. I'm not going to test it. Let's press run. Oh, okay, so Solution Explorer has disappeared. We need the Solution Explorer to still be there, really. Because how do I get to different source files, right? Okay. Interesting, it should just be in here, but put a breakpoint. Yes, it stopped. It doesn't really do anything at the moment, as we know, but it's filled with memory. Okay, so it's done broadly what I asked. I just haven't been really probably precise enough with it. In terms of that phase 2 description, because I think we do need to be able to get to the virtual, the virtual console, to the Solution Explorer. But that's a pretty decent start, I think. Let's try pressing stop and going back. Okay, we end up back over here. Okay, great. Okay, so let's get to just fix that first bug with a refresher. Okay, so refresh browser for new browser, it's not the project. We want to basically look in local storage for the paths, to store the path, and look for that project on the path and try and reopen it. And if we can't, we should, you know, go back to the workflow to create a new project, so we might have deleted the file system underneath. And I'm going to think a little bit about how I actually want the sort of debug view to work. I think it probably makes sense for the Solution Explorer to hide itself automatically when we go into that mode. But I think it'd be nice if we could kind of reopen it. Almost same with chat. I think we almost want some sort of side panel open close buttons that hide it. And I guess we could drag the splitter right from the right, but that feels a bit uncomfortable and ungainly. While this beavers away, let's see what WebStorm does. Obviously WebStorm has a Solution Explorer, has a button thing down the left. Probably don't want a button, so I'm not expecting us to have lots of these. So you can drag it to a minimum, but not to 0. The same will go for chat. Yeah, we can drag it to a minimum and not to 0, but you hide it with buttons. Okay, I think I'm going to roughly follow that pattern. Yeah, roughly follow that pattern and put the buttons perhaps on the application toolbar. And obviously we can change these things. I'm just going to pause recording here for a moment, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. I had to stop recording there for a while. Claude has, in theory, done what we asked. Yeah, so okay, so it's using IndexedDB rather than local storage. I'm going to ask it why. I think I know why. I think it's to do with it being a handle rather than a string. But I'm going to ask it anyway, because that's not what I asked it to do. But it was like, otherwise, it has done what we asked. Maybe I'm just a Luddite by asking for local storage. Showing my age. But let's find out. Just check I did resume recording. I did resume recording. Okay. Embellishing its answer. Okay. Great question. Of course it's a great question. I really look forward to the day when it says to me a stupid question or you're an idiot. It'd really make me laugh. In any case, yes, it's strings. Okay, it's a handle complex object. Okay. I assumed it was to do with the serialization, hence why I mentioned about strings and strings and things a minute ago. I've not done much of a file system API in the browser. My work's mostly been on SaaS products, which have not really used it, not in any deep way. Okay, cool. Well, let's see what happens. Let me. Okay, that's because I cancelled off the dialogue. Okay, that's interesting. We saw that it works sanely like this. Okay, so open or create project. Let's browse. Okay, let's set a folder. Okay, now if I refresh the browser. Okay, great. A bit more usable. Okay, so I want to make that top title bar smaller. It's absurdly big. Buttons. Okay, let's just make it. Let's do one request at a time. Yeah. Let's just ask it to make it smaller because it's absurdly big at the moment. Okay. That's better. You can see it's already done it. Okay. Great. Yes, I want to make it just a standard button. I mean, that's far too in my face, that green. I wouldn't be able to focus on the assembly language of that sat there. I might have to sneeze in a second. Oh, bless me. Ooh. Okay. It's done that. It's not consistent. What I'm going to do is I'll correct that. I'm not going to ask Claude to correct that because it probably would, but it's getting fiddly. Like if you look, it's got it the wrong way around. It's inverted to our other buttons. Actually, we've got some inversion. Actually, yeah, we've got a bit of inversion, a bit of inconsistency. I mean, one of the things I haven't provided it is a style guide, which is probably something I should have done, and perhaps I ought to do before we get into things like the graphics editors and things. I'll have to think about that again off camera. Like this has gone from, it's got a coding guide which is actually following reasonably well. It's pulling out components, putting them in the right place, and it's writing TypeScript of the kind we want. So it's following the coding guide really well, but I've not given it a style guide. So it's just making it up as it goes, which is leading to things like that. Yeah, great. So I want to just make these things hideable. Yeah, I want to put some little sidebar buttons on, which let us open and close the two sidebars into the application bar, side panels rather. Okay, so let me go back to Claude. Two buttons to the application bar let us hide and show the Project Explorer and the chat. we can use the standard font awesome sidebar icons and in the debug mode, it should continue to default to closed. So we want it to we want to be able to open right in the debug mode, but default to closed, basically. Yeah, if you look at the UI now, there's quite a few things that are just not consistent. And I say it's just because I've not given it a style guide, really. I will have a think about that over the next few days, or maybe even today. It's still early Saturday morning, and I quite enjoy working on this. We shouldn't take it too long, so I probably won't snip this section. Still got that My Lovely Horse song in my head. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay, so it's adding things to Zustand, to however you say that, Zustand, I don't know. It's adding things to that, which is good. That's what I wanted to do. As per usual, I will do some reviews kind of off camera. I'll probably sort out the styling off camera and hopefully come back with a nice, a slightly tidier UI and a style guide. Nearly done. Okay, so we've got a couple of buttons on the left here. Okay, I'd rather they animated open and closed. It would look a bit slicker, and I want the chat on the right. Okay, can we move the open close chat toggle to the right of the application bar? Also put to the right of everyone. It's better. I want it to the right of the run button. Right on the right. Cool, great. Which one does WebStorm animate? No, it doesn't. Interesting. Maybe I shouldn't be so ambitious. Okay. I'm just contemplating a couple of things. It's looking pretty good, I would say. It looks more like a sort of IDE now, which is great. We've got a lot more room to actually edit code, which is great. We've got a save button. I think we should probably move that to the top left toolbar, but I've not quite decided about how I want my editor to work yet. I think I'll decide where save buttons go when we introduce a couple more editors. So I'm going to leave that where it is for a minute. And I think we'll end up with a collection of tools like that's our import image tool, or convert image to assembly tool rather. I think we'll end up with a bunch of those. But I don't want to sort of start prematurely optimizing, shall we say. I don't think that would be helpful. Yeah, I think for this episode we'll leave that there. In the next episode, I think we will do some graphic editors. Yeah, great. Thanks for watching. Hope it was interesting, and hopefully you can see things moving on quite nicely now. And see you next time.